perfect season to pick up and take the family on that long-awaited vacation. It can be a little stressful, though, until you reach your destination. There are a few guidelines that you can follow to ensure a smooth and low-stress trip. We're talking about flying here this morning. Here with more on this is the Public Relations Manager for the ABQ Sunport, Daniel Jiron. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we're going to hit really on 7 tips on how to make your flying a little less stress. Yeah, not as much stressful, I guess. What am I trying to say? Not as much stress.
Exactly.
So let's start with, when do we arrive?
Yeah, and this is a big one, especially if you're departing early morning. You know, most airlines, their guidelines are 90 minutes prior to departure. 2 hours if you're traveling internationally.
Okay.
You know, we're a little spoiled here in Albuquerque with the Sunport. You can get through quickly, but really the airlines are very becoming sticklers on the 90-minute rule.
So 90 minutes.
Correct.
That's the key of getting there on time, making sure that you can get your boarding pass and everything and get on safely, correct?
Absolutely. You know, it gives you plenty of time to park, to check in at the ticket counter, to get through security, and then once you're there, you can kind of enjoy our amenities, free Wi-Fi, dining, shopping, those sorts of things.
That's true. You know, and then also the carry-ons. Let's go there. Carry-ons, there's a lot of questions as to what you can and cannot take on board.
Absolutely. You know, the biggest thing are the liquids and gels still. And the guideline has not changed in many years, and that's 3 ounces or less containers, and all of those containers must fit in a quart-size zip-top bag. That's the general guideline for those. Once you've packed your carry-on, it needs to make sure it's the right dimensions to be able to fit on in the overhead bins in the aircraft. And you're allowed 1 carry-on and then 1 personal item, which may be a purse, a laptop, a backpack, those sorts of things. Those are the only that are allowed. There are two items, basically a carry-on and a personal item.
So don't try to take on 3 items.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And then you'll be asked to actually check it, right?
They'll have to check one of those items in. Yes.
That's going to take you even longer to get onto the plane.
Exactly right. So again, arriving early, if you have something that comes up, giving yourself plenty of time really does alleviate that stress.
Okay, so whenever they do check your carry-on luggage, you have to notice that they're shuffling things around. Is there any specific way you should pack or to make it a little easier to get through security faster?
Not necessarily. Again, you have to have those items in your zip-top bag out.
Okay.
Unless there's the new PreCheck, which people can sign up for PreCheck. That's a little bit of a different scenario. You can leave your shoes on. You can leave your liquids in the bag, but that's a separate item that costs a little more, but you can do that as well.
You can do that ahead of time, right?
Absolutely.
How do you sign up for that?
Absolutely. You would go to tsa.gov. They have all the information about PreCheck on there, so that actually does alleviate a little bit more of the stress going through. But if not, you have to follow the typical guidelines if you're not enrolled in PreCheck.
And when you do the pre-roll check-in, how does that work? Does everyone qualify?
Well, you have to go through a screening process. They do a background check. They do some things. You pay $75. It lasts for 5 years. And then you're not guaranteed to get PreCheck every time you fly. I mean, generally you will, but again, part of the screening process with TSA that you may or may not get it.
Okay, but it may be worth your
Absolutely,
while if you want to try it.
Definitely.
Okay, if you're traveling with kids or special needs, maybe you have a wheelchair or you have a walker, is there a special line that you can use?
There is. TSA does have a dedicated line for folks that have special needs. People who have children who may be just unfamiliar with the process. They haven't traveled in many years, or they have special medical needs, those sorts of things. They have a line that's a lot easier to go through, and it's really does ease the stress.
Okay.
And for everybody. People who are seasoned travelers can go through the regular line. These folks take the other line, and they can go at a more leisurely pace.
Speaking of kids, sometimes airlines allow families to board first, even if you're not in the first few rows, correct?
They do. I know Southwest has changed their policy a little bit. After the A boarding group, then you can board with children.
Okay, and real fast, the passport confusion. Do we need a passport?
No, you do not, unless you're
in
traveling
US.
internationally. Domestic travel, you do not. There has been some confusion with the Real ID Act. We are good for at least 2015. There will be no decision on the Real ID Act until early 2016. Even then, so many states are not in compliance that it probably won't happen. So you're good with just a regular, valid driver's license.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. If you want to watch our interview again, it'll be on KRQE.com. We'll be right back.